Our next speaker today is Jea Sophia Oh, who is Associate Professor of Philosophy at Westchester University of Pennsylvania. Her research primarily focuses on the areas of Asian and Comparative Philosophies, religion and ecology, process philosophy, and postcolonial theory. If that doesn't seem a lot, try the title of her first book, which is A Postcolonial Theology of Life, Planetarity East and West. It's a path-making Korean ecofeminist theology and comparative philosophy at the same time. She has edited any number of books and is the co-editor of Nature's Transcendence and Immanence, a comparative interdisciplinary ecstatic naturalism, learned from her teacher, Bob Corrington at Drew University, where she did her PhD. Other titles that she has edited include Suffering and Nature and Evil in Nature, Comparative Responses from Ecstatic Naturalism and Healing Cultures, a book on emotions, another on Korean Philosophies and Religions, and a forthcoming one called Greening Philosophy of Religion, Rethinking Climate Change at the Intersection of Philosophy and Religion. She's been active in the APA, the American Philosophical Association, in both its Eastern or Central Division, where she is chair of the Society for Asian and Comparative Philosophy, and in the Eastern Division of the APA, in which she is the chair of the section on international Chinese philosophy. I warn you, this is probably the densest paper of the day, and listen up, all of you. Thank you.
안녕하세요. I'm not sure this is densest paper in the day, but actually I learned from Catherine Keller, so that part is from Keller. Okay, I'm glad she made it. It doesn't stay. Okay, I'll be careful, and I need the thingy right. Okay, 동학. Eastern Learning as an indigenous Korean religion, political philosophy, and a social movement in a later 19th century, which was a religious hybrid of the three major East Asian philosophies, Confucianism, Buddhism, and Taoism, as well as by Christianity alone. I'm sorry, this is actually sliding, not changing, okay? I should get used, as well as Christianity, along with the distinctive Korean life-centered cosmology that stands for reverence toward life and creation. In the middle of the 19th century, in the midst of colonization and westernization by Japanese invasion and Christian imperialism, Suwon initiated Donghak. Donghak's all-inclusive, holistic, harmonious, and organic cosmology resonates with the deep ecological process worldview. The East Asian organismic and holistic cosmology can be found in the popular symbol of the triune great ultimate 삼태극, heaven, humans, and myriad things. Korean eco-theology can be explored through the symbolic number 3 and its paradoxical triadic reality. The number 3 symbolically signifies 10,000 things, 만물, a myriad things, and a multiplicity of multiplicities, in which everything is interdependently connected as a plurisingular cosmic wholeness. In the Book of Changing, in I Ching, Samje, Samkai refers to heaven, earth, and human persons. Over the course of transforming and living traditions, its meaning has come to refer to the myriad things existing in a dynamic cosmos, Uju, understood as the unsummed spatio-temporal entirety of the world. This triadic integrity of Samje is the foundation of a socially inflected soteriology in East Asian cosmology, which Tia Ming has called an anthropocosmic view to describe the dynamic interconnectedness of heaven, earth, and humanity. An anthropocosmic paradigm of divine multiplicity and immanence is also at the heart of the distinctively Korean philosophical and political movement of Donghak's Trian reverences. Developed by Haewol, this ethico-religious stance is directed to heaven, human beings, and the myriad things in the earth, or the earth as a holistic organism of organisms. Donghak's notion of revering the triple material potency, Samkai, Samje, of heaven not only foregrounds the locus of divine immanence, but also invokes the divine by calling rice pap, the Hanul, divine in Korean. Such a trend thinking calls even a weaving woman Hanul, which transcends any theistic classification of so-called Western learning, which means Eurocentric Christianity and Western-centric philosophy. Donghak's theo-anthropocosmic paradigm further helps to shift an anthropocentric paradigm to a more inclusive ethic by relocating and expanding the hermeneutical horizons of the divine immanence. Samje, three potences, is indeed the eco-trinity of heaven, earth, and the myriad things, including humans, the creative congregation of which saves Asian ecofeminist theology from the patriarchal dangers of the Christian doctrine of the Trinity, understood as a monarchical and patrilineal Father-Son spirit. It is obviously true that the traditional Christian Trinity is lacking femininity. Nevertheless, I recognize Christian Trinity as a strong basis for polydoxy and as a sign of a multiplicity of relations. Catherine Keller rejects any homogeneous notion of Christian theology. Quote, "The Christian tradition does not refer to a singular lineage, nor do Christians speak with one voice, even when they attend to the same line of scripture. In this sense, the Christian tradition is always already polydoxy," unquote. Jangkap Jr. criticized the dualistic aspect of the Western-centric traditions. Quote, "The Western tradition was monolithically committed to its pervasive dualism and substantialism," quote. Process theology absolutely denies a God who is dominant, inflexible, unemotional, independent, totally masculine, so-called the omnipotent God. Rather, it is God who is in and with the world with unrealized opportunities, radically opens up a space for freedom and self-creativity. Keller tirelessly calls God posse ipsum, possibility itself. Inspired by Nicholas de Cluja as their favorite name for God, she suggests a method of non-knowing to know God that seems wholly inaccessible and impossible. Her process of prophetic theology is epistemologically corresponding with the Taoistic negative cultivation of human knowledge of naming Tao or Tian. In Tao Te Ching, chapter 71, knowing that one does not know is knowing at its best. Roger Ames and David Hall call Uji unprincipled knowing. Similarly, Confucius in the Analect said, "To know what you know and know what you do not know, this then is what it means to know." Above and beyond, the influence of Taoism and Confucianism soon also refused to essentially or reductively define Hanul, the divine. Okay. Hanul, the divine multiplicity, one and many. If one embodies Hanul, one will be creatively transformed. If one never forgets Hanul, one will be knowing the mystery of everything. This passage is known as the Incantation of Donghak, founded by Suhun. His teaching is condensed into these 13 Hanja characters. Suhun taught his followers to repeat and recite the 13 words of incantation and subsequently interpreted each word, yet he never attempted to explain the word Hanul. Experiencing a theophany, Suhun used the term Shichonju, Chonju, Sangje, to refer to the divine presence. An Italian Jesuit missionary, Matteo Ricci, translated his Christian god Chonju as well. In the 17th century, Ricci's theological strategy to convert the Chinese to Catholicism was to critique the idea of principle as an ultimate basis for the order of things and to urge Confucians to return to the idea of the Lodonhai, Sangje, which later became the standard translation of God. However, Suhun's Chonju is neither Christian nor purely monotheistic. Rather, it is pluralistic and democratic. It is a Hanja translation of a Korean term, Hanul. In the first English translation of Donggyeongdaejeon, Youngchun Kim and Suksan Yoon emphasized that the pure Korean for Chonju is Hanul and differentiate Suhun's Hanul from the Western Christian God and from the Neo-Confucian idea of heaven, Tian, as the cosmic principle. Chonju was mentioned 14 times in his Donggyeongdaejeon written in Chinese Hanja, while Hanul was mentioned 34 times in Yongdam Yusa, which was written purely in Hangul, Korean alphabetic writing system for Minjong, the low class. Han means one, plural singularity as one and many, as well as means infinity without boundary, which is different from suffering Han. Han should be spelled H-A-A-N because Han suffering is kind of longer pronunciation than Han as a big or infinity. Thus, Hanul means all-inclusive, sacred, macro, micro, cosmic organism, which is Hanja Chan. For Suhun, Hanul is the word that represents the ultimate reality. However, Suhun chose not to define Hanul. Rather, he opens a tomb or theon, interstitial space for the word as a mystery. It is Suhun's apophatic sensibility about heaven, an attitude of awe, reverence, and intellectual humility before a transcendental reality, however personal or even anthropomorphic form in which heaven is encountered. It is problematic to make this simple comparison between the Western monotheistic God and Hanul for a number of reasons. The concept of Hanul is a pluralistic and even radically democratic concept in a way that goes well beyond the traditional idea of God as a monarchical source of creative power. The mainstream Western monotheism cannot accommodate such a concept of Hanul, which means literally a magnificent unity which includes everything in terms of togetherness, uri or ui. The Korean letter Han has no end and means the infinite becomings. Therefore, Hanul not only means personal God, but also indicates the whole cosmos as one organic body, the whole process of cosmic life. As the famous Greek phrase, which was echoed by many, including Catherine Keller, God is an infinite sphere whose center is everywhere, whose circumference nowhere. One must understand Suhun's Hanul in his non-dualistic oneness of the universe, which include all subjects as one organic body. Embodying Hanul, Shichonju means the interrelated becoming of human beings in heaven. That is, in Hyodong Lee's word, the divinization of human beings and the humanization of heaven. I understand Suhun's notion of Hanul as becoming or interbecomings, an extensive as well as expansive organisms. which endlessly embraces all expression of life, human and non-human, including non-organic bodies. One embraces the other as the whole and vice versa in this spiritual organism. This oneness of Hanul, including the whole cosmos, is understood as one organic body in the cosmological hybridization. Yeah, Soon was born earlier than Whitehead, and Whitehead's Donggyeongdaejeon was written when Soon's Donggyeongdaejeon was written when Whitehead was born or something. As humans are living in time and space, the cosmic life is living and becoming endlessly, with humankind as Hanul. Hanul, the cosmic life, is thus living together with every body as one unity. Soon's Hanul is interbecoming. The process of cosmic life existed even before Whiteheadian God in process. For Soon, all movement of living, not only by and through human beings, but also by all different lives, are considered as Hanul. I understand Hanul according to the understanding of Soon, who points out that it is both cosmic life and its embodiment. In this process of life, that which Soon left without any definition, Hanul is feeling and emptying endlessly because Hanul cannot be known without knowing the movement of life. Through the endless movement of embracing others, so as to be enlivened together, Hanul becomes Hanul and is realized. Therefore, I would define this indefinite character of Hanul as the infinite divine interbecomings. Soon's notion of Hanul can also be understood as such, that the whole organic body, including individual bodies to the smallest individual unit, as becoming together. That is the relationship between macrocosm and microcosm of Hanul. J. McDaniel writes that Whitehead thought of God as an expression of, not an exception to, the creativity of the universe. God is both everywhere, at the same time nowhere. God is everywhere, being equally present to all things, and nowhere because there is an aspect of God that is simply non-special. God is harmony of harmonies and thus the subjectivity, unity of the universe as a whole. Whitehead states in the Science and the Modern World, quote, "My theory involves the entire abandonment of the notion that simple location is the primary way in which things are evolved in space-time. In a certain sense, everything is everywhere at all times." This profoundly resonated with Daniel Kahn's recent film, Everything Everywhere All at Once. In this process of, I watched it, karmic relationality of interbecoming, everyone's body is the locus of this harmonious interpenetration of macrocosm into microcosm. This God, with God in this larger whole and all things being interconnected, it follows that we can see divinity in even the smallest of places. To borrow an example from J. McDaniel, if an environmentalist is walking through a forest and take pleasure in the whole of the forest, they have missed the enjoyment of weeds and small flowers. It is not enough to see the whole. We must also see heaven in the wildflower and also in each human face. For Whitehead, the actual entities are final real thing. I'm going to skip Whitehead part, which is probably boring for you. So nevertheless, the juxtaposition of Soon's notion of Hanul and the Whitehead's becoming in process does not mean that the process God is Hanul, God and Hanul are identical. For Whitehead, God exists in process and change. God is an active agent for Whitehead by the distinction between the primordial and the constant nature of God. Skip the explanation of the primordial and the constant. Okay. Whitehead's notion of God's immanence is sharing creation. God shares with every new creation. Thus, for Whitehead, God is the presupposed actuality of conceptual operation in unison of becoming with every other creative act. In other words, God shares with every new creation its actual world. On the other hand, Hanul for Soon is what changes in process, as it identifies working subject as Hanul. In this sense, one can say that Soon is more non-dualistic than Whitehead. The multiple meanings of Hanul in Korean can be both extended entirety of cosmos and doing, Hanun, an adjective and gerund form of a verb, do, or work, hada. In this sense, Hanul or Hanulim as the ultimate is the working God, similar to the Whiteheadian moving whole. The cosmos, 우주, a spatio-temporal organism, and heaven or sky, Hanul, is never a static structure, but rather it is a dynamic process. Roland Faber described the universe as a moving whole, and skip his beautiful quote. The triadic structure of one and many through creativity. Yeah, oh my God. I actually practiced in this morning that took me 45 minutes because I actually have heard that this can be published as a book chapter, so I actually put my effort. But anyway, I'm going to cut a lot. So, but give me just 5 minutes, not 2 minutes. Because I'm speaking. Incarnation is indeed interbecoming through the sticky mechanism of love, or the relational power of Jeong, a Korean word for compassion and love. McDaniel defines interbecoming as communities that are creative, compassionate, diverse, inclusive, participatory, humane to animals, humans to animals, and good for the earth. For example, like COP Institute, it's a good community of interpreters, right? Okay, this will be the really this is probably I will just say in words. Okay, these are three forms of reverence to heaven, to human, and myriad things. And I want to show you the samtaeguk as three ultimate, oh my God, 3 minutes kills me a lot. Okay, so there is Tian, the heaven, the blue part, red is the earth, and the humans are the yellow part. So you probably are very familiar with the Taeguk Tai Chi that has yin-yang included, right? But this samtaeguk is actually, skip the next one. Yeah, this is muguk, like emptiness, but emptiness is not really good translation because that is actually presupposed with the fullness or some dualistic structure, but it is more than that. So the second is the taeguk, which include yin and yang. So it is both one and two at the same time. So two sides of the same coin. That's what samtaeguk is sam. The etymological origin of sam became the saram, human, sarang, love, and salim, enlivening, and sam, another long version of sam, means actually living. So that's actually related. So that somehow human beings are medium, the yellow. So human beings, the medium includes even myriad things, even the single blade of grass. They are the medium. Somehow like we are touching the transcendence, at the same time we are residing here. So this kind of cohabitance of the myriad things in between the heaven and earth. That's samtaeguk is somehow like interstitial space, and also it kind of like overcomes the dualistic division of heaven and earth. So, oh yeah, no, I actually got another diagram of Hanul as macrocosm and the spirals and the Hanul as microcosm, and put them together, Hanul as cosmic wholeness. And you can put more spirals in the second one. So that's probably like I try to overcome the division, classification of pantheism and panentheism. Somehow I actually titled this paper as pan hyphen and slash in theism. So pantheism, panentheism, that classification of Western deism doesn't really work or explain fully about the Donghak's kind of theology. So it's not really purely pantheism or panentheism, but go beyond and inclusive and embraces. So I probably go to the conclusion. Yeah, right? Okay. So maybe like just one example as like Hewell visited his disciples' house, and then one day the woman was weaving the cloth, and then because of the noise, actually Hewell asked his student who is weaving the cloth, and my daughter-in-law is, but it is Hanul. And Hewell called pap rice Hanul. So the human beings are called Hanul, and what makes Donghak, my point is this, actually, what makes Donghak become a movement in a social transformation, because Donghak believers call Donghak not like believe in Donghak, but they said the doing Donghak, do Donghak. So this guarding aspect of Donghak is actually somehow make people feel like they are Hanul, then how come we are mistreated like this? So that emancipatory message actually make people to be actually conscientized on their situation and get a compassion with others. And that compassion and conscientization becomes a movement. And movement as event is a Hanul, not just an entity or something. And it's actually, my last sentence says probably provocative to Donghak. Donghak's pansyncretic, because it's like Taoism, Confucianism, Buddhism, and Korean shamanism, and life-oriented cultural aspect, plus Christianity, made like syncretic hermeneutics is an alternative model of theo-anthropo-cosmic, not anthropocentrism or cosmocentrism, but it's theo-anthropo-cosmic worldview. Donghak as a philosophy to be is doing theology and living God as movement and a transformation through the process of conscientization and compassion, which is Jeong in Korean word. In that all-inclusive notion of Hanul is a better alternative to overcome the Whiteidian metaphysical dualism of the dipolar God and entity, because I've been struggled like why is primordial and consequent and all that language of that, but there are a lot of similarities. Thank you. 감사합니다.